Ever since 2003, fans within the horror community have often wondered as to what would be the outcome of Freddy vs. Jason if in fact the movie had a sequel, and courtesy of BloodyDisgusting.com, the rare internal memo reveals Ash from Evil Dead was supposed to be involved in Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash, the Freddy vs. Jason 2 sequel, way back in 2003, as we have a rare inside leak on the overall synopsis and script for Freddy vs. Jason 2, as it was set to have Ash kill off Freddy Krueger in the film, as the definitive story was going to come to a conclusion involving Freddy, Jason, and Ash from Evil Dead. But of course, for those that are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, that way you guys can be notified whenever movie news and information is posted onto this channel to keep up to date with all the latest in horror alongside movies, hashtag notification squad. So it was revealed to us courtesy of BloodyDisgusting.com. It was said that after years in development hell, New Line Cinema's Freddy vs. Jason finally hit theaters on August 13th, 2003, and it was a monstrous success for New Line Cinema, whose identity was built around Robert Englund's Freddy Krueger and the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. The film ended with a wink to the fans leading up to a possible sequel, as we do understand that Freddy Krueger winked at the audience once Jason Voorhees emerged from Camp Crystal Lake bearing the head of Freddy in his hands, but nobody ever knew following as to what was going to come involving both Jason and Freddy. While there were multiple rumors of potential villainous crossovers involving Halloween's Michael Myers and Hellraiser's Pinhead, the only one that was legitimately on contention was to bring Ash's Evil Dead Ashley J. Williams into the horrorverse for Freddy vs. Jason. This idea was pitched and supported by the president COO Toby Emmerich and of course creative executive Jeff Katz, as they were fighting tooth and nail to pit Bruce Campbell's Ash against both Freddy and Jason Voorhees in the upcoming film, as they were trying to shuffle and figuring out a way how to include Ash within the film, as Katz reached out to BloodyDisgusting.com this weekend in revealing the information that was supposed to be back in 2003. Now there were all sorts of really big reveals in the making back during that time, as multiple different villains were discussed and being included in the film, villains such as Michael Myers, Pinhead, Leprechaun, Chucky, and the Tall Man from Phasm. But there was only one person that they really had in mind that really stuck out more than anybody else, and that was Ashley J. Williams, in having him be involved in the overall story in destroying Robert Englund's Freddy Krueger, sealing away the story once and for all. And if that's not a shocking revelation, then how about Robert Englund, who had grown tired of doing Freddy Krueger back in 2003, which ultimately led into Robert Englund being substituted for Jackie Earle Haley, as we saw the remake back in 2010, in which many people did not enjoy or grown fond of, as the reboots did very poorly on the big screen. But what's more interesting is that Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash looked to also have a budget cut, although Katz, a known horror fan, had been selling the idea of Ash adding value to the sequel in avoiding the retread. Now he also points out to Halloween H2O and Halloween Resurrection on how it hurt the franchise, and more intriguing, having the story center itself around Ash having to be the main hero in battling not one, but two very iconic villains. At the end of the day, the movie involving Freddy, Ash, and Jason Voorhees is never going to happen, but New Line Cinema has released the table of context for Freddy vs. Jason 2, in which, as you guys can see on your screen, the overall synopsis of having Ash be included was pitched as it says: "We may be looking ahead, but we think this choice could even fuel New Line Cinemas to grow years down the line. Bruce and Sam Raimi have flirted with the idea of a fourth Evil Dead film for some time should Ash join our villains and best them on the biggest stage, bringing the character to a wider audience in the process. We may be in a position to make this a reality. Any such deal would probably require us to split some form with Senator Raimi's current home," but Sam continues to indicate as recently as 2 weeks ago that he'd like to make an Evil Dead film after Spider-Man, giving us a chance at a horror film that is already a huge event for the audience, without even considering the potential mainstream audience that a post-Spidey Sam Raimi film can bring. In addition, this will allow us, following a few years break, to have Sean Cunningham go off and make Friday the 13th, the final Jason story, the sequel that the Jason fans have been counting down to since the series started, getting into heavy sequel territory. This is also the eventual possibility of doing Englund's Elm Street prequel down the line, and in which in closing it says, "I'm sure you can tell, but we we are very strongly think this was the way to go. This movie has the potential to outdo the bloody carnage and overtop the action of the original Freddy vs. Jason. While giving us a woolly original story by horror and film standards, the buzz continues to build online, and it's becoming clear this is the matchup our fans want, and making it happen will get them talking in a way no horror sequel has ever done. There's no question that this film could prove to be quite, as Ash said himself, groovy. So the idea of Freddy vs. Jason 2 was presented onto the table many years ago with having Ash involved, but it looks like many years after, we're gonna get no sort of indication that such a film will ever come about, unless of course the community and the fans demand it that much so that eventually down the line they may either A, recreate Freddy vs. Jason, or B, finally allow in following up with a sequel involving other characters of the sorts. Of course, as of right now, there is no sort of plan to introduce Freddy or Jason or Ash on the big screen, but post your comments down below. What are your overall thoughts on the overall possibility that many years ago this was actually a thing in which was presented in the form of some kind of script? Do you guys believe that in the future we may in fact see Freddy vs. Jason one more time? Is there going to be a sequel, perhaps maybe a remake or a reboot? Post your comments down below, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. If you guys want to see a potential Freddy vs. Jason film, go on ahead and slap a like down below. Post your comments down below as to how you guys feel about this. Tune back in for more, and I'll be seeing you all down the comment section below. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace.